In programming, a sequence is just a series of steps that your program executes in order. It's like giving your computer a list of instructions to follow one by one. Imagine you're following a recipe from a cookbook. You perform each step one after the other, weighing ingredients, melting butter, mixing, baking, until you've made a delicious dish. This is exactly how a sequential program works. Next, we're diving into PyCharm, a powerful IDE. This is short for Integrated Development Environment that we'll be using throughout this course. First, launch PyCharm and create a new Pure Python project. Skip the Start screen by choosing New Project. Give your project a name. In our case, this will be C1 Example. Select the location for your project. For example, on your desktop. Make sure to tick off Create a main.py welcome script and click Create. Please be patient while PyCharm sets up your project. Next, let's add our first Python file to the project. Right-click on your project folder. Choose New. Then, Python file. Name it Welcome. And press Enter. Now, let's write our first lines of Python code. Print, hello, world. The print function outputs text to the console. Anything within single or double quotes will be displayed. To run your code, right-click anywhere in the editor and select Run, Welcome. Or click the green arrow at the top right. The output should appear in the Run window below. Note: you can adjust the color settings, font, point size, of the IDE to your own preference via the Settings page. In the menu bar, select File, then Settings or Ctrl-Alt-S. Problems with the interpreter can also be solved in that settings screen. Let's apply what we've learned with a practical example. We'll calculate the average speed of a roller coaster at an amusement park. The roller coaster has a length of 1 kilometer and a trip duration of 2 minutes. Here's the Python code to calculate its average speed. In this example, we use length in kilometers, time in hours, speed, roller coaster, and is open, as variables to store data, and operators, like the slash and plus, to perform calculations. The print function outputs the result to the console after converting the speed to a string. Remember, to run your program, right-click, then select Run. And there you have it. You've set up your first project in PyCharm and written your first Python program. In programming, variables are like labeled mailboxes in a huge wall. They store data in the computer's memory, allowing us to access and manipulate information in our programs. Just like you need addresses on mailboxes to deliver letters correctly, every piece of data in memory needs a label. That's the variable. We assign values to variables using the equal sign. This is the assignment operator. When naming variables, we follow the Google style guide for Python. Let's take a look at some rules. Variables should start with a letter. Consist only of lowercase letters, numbers, and underscores. Avoid abbreviations. Use underscores to separate words. Have meaningful names that describe their purpose. Following these guidelines helps keep our code clean and easy to understand. Variables in the program map to locations in the computer's memory. Every variable in Python has a specific data type, which determines the kind of value it can store. Let's break it down. Each variable holds a different type of data. Int, as in integer, in other words, a whole number. Float, as in floating point number. String, as in text. Or Boolean, which can store true or false. To check this, we can use the type function. These data types help Python understand how to handle and manipulate the values stored in variables. And there you have it. A solid understanding of variables and data types in Python. Ever wanted to quickly test Python without writing a full program? Enter the Python console. It's perfect for experimenting with statements on the fly. To access the Python console, click on it at the bottom left corner of your PyCharm or IDE. If you see 3 greater than characters before a statement, it means it's entered in the console directly. Remember, statements entered here won't be saved like in a program. In Python, the data type of a variable can change throughout your program. It's called dynamic typing. Unlike some other languages, Python allows variables to change their type based on the value assigned to them during execution. This flexibility makes Python powerful and versatile. Python provides functions to convert data types between integers, floats, and strings. Here are some examples. Int converts the argument to an integer. Float converts to float. str converts the argument to a string. Remember, attempting to convert incompatible types can cause runtime errors. In our example, str, with speed inside the parentheses, changes the data type from float to string. This conversion is necessary because the print function can only print strings. Let's explore essential arithmetic operators used in Python. Operators in Python include parentheses, exponent, unary operators plus and minus, multiplication, real division, whole division, and remainder. Operations are performed respecting the order of operations, similar to standard math. Let's take a closer look at division. Python distinguishes between real division and whole division using different operators. For example, 1/ performs real division. 2/ calculates the quotient. It performs a floor division, which returns the largest integer less than or equal to the division result. When one of the operands is a float, the result of the floor division will also be a float. And the modulo operator calculates the remainder after division. These operators are useful for various mathematical calculations. Strings in Python also have special operators for concatenation and repetition. In our roller coaster example, we concatenate strings using plus. Also, we can repeat strings using the asterisk. This allows for flexible manipulation of text data. Python offers shorthand operators for concise and efficient coding. Instead of writing number equals number plus 1, you can use number plus equals 1 for incrementing values. This shorthand applies to other operations like multiplication and string concatenation as well. Let's begin by calculating the maximum capacity per hour of a roller coaster based on its operational parameters. In our example we have 2 trains each hour, 28 seats per train, 30 seconds boarding time, and 2 minutes ride duration. We do a calculation of the capacity and then we use the print function. Note that an alternative print function is used. We used commas instead of plus signs to concatenate the output. Also, the capacity per hour is converted to an integer. Otherwise the result would be a float. Let's ask ourselves these questions. What if the number of seats per train or the number of trains used varies? Are we going to write a new algorithm every time? The answer is no. The solution is to request the number of seats and the number of trains. To dynamically input values, we use the input function. It captures keyboard input as strings, so we need to convert them to numbers using the int or the float function. Let's see how these changes affected our program. First we get a prompt to enter the number of trains. Next we are asked to put in the number of places. After our inputs, the result is printed. Comments are essential for making your code readable and understandable. Let's add some comments to our code. In Python, comments start with a hashtag. They help explain code logic or provide context. You can also comment multiple lines using Ctrl+//. Or from the menu bar, select Code, Comment with Line Comment. Let's recap the typical structure of a Python program. Read data, where we capture input from the user. Process data, where we perform calculations or operations. And last but not least, print information, where we display results or output. Note that the \n character indicates a new line in Python. It creates an extra blank line between the user's input and the printed output. That's it for sequences. Remember, programming is all about practice. So, try writing your own sequences and see what you can create.